Thank you for listening to The Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. With your host, Dapper Data.
Let's go. Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to listen, my dolly? You know, so when we talk about automation, right, I always equate, when I start now that I'm doing data science more, I always equate automation to artificial intelligence and how I start looking at machines and then I start looking at how they could possibly take over, right? So many people talk about, will AI take over my job? You know what I'm saying? They get nervous about it, or they start to see, I always say that it's never going to really, it may replace you, but it's really not replacing you, because you're just going to shift your role. Now you become behind the machine a little bit, being able to test and make sure that they are doing things right. But do you, and Kenny, you can answer this one, and then I'll go to Ayo, but do you see AI ever taking over a role to what you're doing right now? What's your thoughts on that?
Not personally. I definitely don't think that. I guess you always have to have somebody to, I guess, build up. For me, I'm thinking from my system admin standpoint, like you have to have somebody to build up the infrastructure. Like you got to have the people to rack and stack the servers. You got to have the people to just build that baseline infrastructure, like to put the storage in, to put the networking equipment in, to install the ESX hosts or things like that. But once it gets to the software side, and like once you actually get on the computer, then it might get kind of shaky.
right. yeah. That's the part right there.
Yeah, like once that happens, like so many things, so many tasks that you do are repetitive. And I don't know if like the AI or the machine learning type of things would start to learn those type of things and like take that data and then be like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And that might, that might take out the human aspect. I honestly don't know. Like it could happen, but I don't think so. Like you still have to have some type of human element in there that at least physically will rack and stack the physical equipment. But
definitely.
But as far as like the once you get on there, like I know Cisco is coming out with like network, what is it called? I want to say it was like software switching or software defined networks. That's software defined networks. So they're pretty much virtualizing switches now. So like those type of things, like that's kind of like wow. It's definitely
and that's definitely dope. That's removing themselves from that operating system or that hardware or whatever it is. At the end of the day, there still has to be hardware. Right. So like you said, there's going to have to be some physical aspect. But we always see like a lot of roles already have fallen to automation, right? And things like machine learning and artificial intelligence, and some have barely escaped it, and then some have not been touched by it yet. But soon come, right? Soon come. They will be, but there's like a prediction that it would kind of take over, So Ayo, what's your thoughts on it, man? Like, do you think that AI would take over that DevOps role or that role that you're playing?
Yeah, I can't call it. Like it's just it's something that we have to see over time. But right now it's happening. Like, because a lot of, and that's where the data sciences guys come into play, right? Because their job is to collect all the data. Because when we're doing deployments and stuff, like AI is kind of strapped into it, right? Because it's collecting all the metrics, right? All the data associated with those metrics. And it's actually, those guys are training those models to behave like a human would think. So I think that it's in due time, maybe. But right now, I mean, because a human still has to create that AI, right? I mean, it's something that you can't just, some Terminator type stuff that happens or whatever. But like, I think that it may happen, but I don't see it taking over.
Right. It seems like you're saying, you and Kenny are saying, y'all think y'all jobs are safe. You know, that was just
because I mean,
like it's
from the robot.
at this point, I don't care because that's what evolution is, right? Because at some point we're gonna have to evolve as humans anyway. So if AI comes into play, then my job should be how can I figure out a way to contribute to
Right.
that AI technology or whatever. Because at that point, I want to create my own stuff too. It's gonna be companies creating their own solutions and their own AI stuff. That they want to sell out to other people. Like my stuff works better than yours, kind of thing. So that's where like Bobby, your job is going to be heavily in demand. I mean, it is now. To be in more demand in years to come.
It's just like I want to say it's just like how the cloud platforms are evolving. Like you got AWS, you got Azure, you got your Google Cloud. Like they're pretty much all offering the same things, but which one do you pick? Like which one offers the better services for what you need? But they're still at the end of the day providing the same thing. So ultimately, it's just going to be up to you, the customer, as to what they want.
Right.
It's getting scary though. I'll tell you that. Like it's getting to a point where like a lot of smart guys are really doing a lot of good things with that. Maybe good or bad, but I've seen a lot of things that actually can like because now when I was reading some company like when they do a lot of like application development, like they have the AI measure how long it took the developer to write that application, right?
Wow.
Stuff like that. And I'm thinking like, why are you clocking this guy? You know what I mean? Like why are you trying to figure out how long it took him to write the software? Like,
they're gonna get that to the machine learning joint, and then
exactly.
Like, it took them that long to do that. Let me see how long it's gonna take for them to do that.
Exactly.
They train the models or whatever, and next thing you know, bang, it's over. So like.
Yeah, that's key, man. Because even in when we talk about data science, talk about AI and machine learning and stuff, it's all about how much data you're feeding it. The historical data is key because if you're feeding it the right, accurate historical data, then you can help the future kind of grow based off of that. And so that's why some of the stuff can be taken over, right? Some of those things can be automated now, and it can and artificial intelligence can replace some roles. Because they can do it more efficiently than the other person, right? You don't get things like emotions tied in, right? Like imagine y'all at DevOps, right? Y'all going in there and y'all had a bad day. You know what I'm saying? Y'all just talked about, you got the little ones and stuff that had no sleep and stuff, right? And you go in there, right? Whereas a robot, they ain't got no kids. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to deal with the emotional aspect, and so they can go in and they can take over, and they actually can do, you could at a push of a button based off of what they know from all the different, I know to go left versus right because of this scenario, because in the past, if I went right, it was wrong, or something like that. They just know that because of history. They followed you, they've watched over you, they've been able to monitor all your moves and actions and things like that. And then now you get replaced because hey, they don't have emotions involved, which is a big factor, right? Because whether you lost a family member or something like that the day before, trauma that happened or something like that, they don't have to worry about any of that. They're just stuck as a machine and they just do their job. You know what I'm saying? And so y'all behind the scenes, I think what will happen is there'll be a shift. Whereas now, instead of y'all actually going in, doing the scripts, whatever it is y'all do to kind of do the migration and control that aspect, you'll be behind the scenes, right? Where it doesn't matter if your emotions get involved. It doesn't matter if certain things get involved. Where like now you got the data, you got the DevOps robot or whatever kind of controlling that aspect where they can't make a mistake, like y'all was saying, right? You remove that human error aspect, man. That's key right there. Auto drinking and driving, things like that. I mean, we talk about removing the human aspect from everything. It removes those errors, man, that humans make on a daily basis and stuff, So like I think that's key.
Think about Tesla, right? And the self-driving cars nowadays. And think about the Amazon warehouses where all use robots to get those packages from, what block it's supposed to be at, because they have barcodes on the floor.
Right.
That tells which robot to where to go and what not to do and stuff like that. So like if it's crazy how evolved it is right now, because like I said, some really, really smart guys are working on some things that we don't even know about. You know, like
It's
these
about to
just
be
go pop up
crazy.
out of nowhere.
Right, exactly.
Crazy.
I didn't even know y'all was working on this.
I think I'm gonna say one thing. The key thing is you said it has to be accurate data. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if those things get bad data input, then shit could go haywire. Like, you have to make sure that the data that they're receiving is good data, because if that data is bad, like say you're in like a Tesla, like you just said, and it receives, I don't know, like it said, instead of exit 14, it thinks it's at exit 15. And just like exit 15 is on the left side of the road, exit 14 is on the right side of the road.
Oh, God.
And then it starts going that way. Like, you know, it has to have good data that goes in order to perform its job well. Like, that is also a major key.
Agreed.
Yeah, man. So I know y'all talked about the cloud a lot, and that's a big aspect in what y'all do. You know, I know y'all specifically work with one or the other. You know, and y'all probably have a lot of thoughts around the cloud and stuff. So do you think that this is a big question that probably everybody wants to know in this world? You know, they're just thinking, will the cloud take over? Right? You know, the buzzword has been around for years now. And they're you know, they say, hey, everybody should go to the cloud. Oh no, everybody stay on prem. You know, everybody go. You know, what do you do? You know what I'm saying, and stuff. What is better? You know, they don't know. And so, you know, I have my thoughts, you know, but I want to hear from y'all, you know, because y'all work with that a lot. You know, Ayo, man, what's your thoughts on like will everyone eventually go to the cloud? You know, and why?
Well, if it was up to me, everybody would be in the cloud, right? But that's not realistic, and that's
why
not
you don't
possible.
like hardware, man? You don't like hardware?
No, because like hardware, just what it does is just it slows the, you know, iteration development purposes, right? You know, because as a developer, sometimes you're waiting for hardware to get provisioned for you. You know, there's no time for you to wait. Whereas with Cloudy, you can either spin up a container, you know, and deploy your instances in AWS. I mean, in what 5 seconds.
Right. So it removes the dependencies. You talking
it
about?
removes that part. It cuts that out immediately. You know, iteration development is increased 10 times fold without having to worry about those things, right? But like I said, I understand, because not a lot of people want to do that, because one, security, they still don't feel secure in the cloud, which I understand. But a lot of companies that do provide their solutions are just as secure, right? I mean, when have we heard of AWS getting hacked? You know, like when have you heard of Azure getting hacked? You know, those things are rare, because they base that off security. You know, the phones, you know, Apple, like all your stuff, photos get sent to the cloud. You know, like people are like, what is the cloud? It could be a data center right next to your house.
Right.
But they call it the cloud because you don't know it. Like, you don't have to know where it's at. You just have to believe that it's there. You know, so and that's how this whole cloud thing works. You know, like, and I think eventually it's gonna get there slowly, but not as fast as I would want it to be, because at some point it is money you're spending too, right? Because you have to worry about how much it's gonna cost for you to migrate your stuff to the cloud versus how much it's gonna cost for you to maintain that stuff on prem, right? Because you're thinking about, if I have all these servers that I bought for like five grand, each, and you end up not using any of them. You can maybe use like 3 or 4, so you've wasted money. Whereas if you go to the cloud, you can provision as on demand as you need.
Right.
And once you're done with them, you can just terminate them and be done with it, right? And at that point, you can track your billing as you go. You know, if you go over a certain threshold, or if you get an email alarm that says, "Look, you're spending too much money." Okay, how can we cut that down? With regular on-prem stuff, you don't know that, because you already paid that money up ahead of time. So that money just is wasted. You know, so I believe that at some point, yes, it will happen, but not a lot of companies need it. But if you don't need it and there's no use case for it, there's no reason to, you know, and that's why you can, like you were saying, have a hybrid infrastructure. Right? You can have both, and you can still communicate from on-prem. You can send data from on-prem to the cloud as you want. You know? So it's not a matter of like I need to go full AWS or full, you know, Azure. It's more or less like, does it make sense?
Right. What's your thoughts, Kenny, man, on that, man? Like, do you think that it will, like, do you think that everybody will go to the cloud? I mean,
speaking on like I'm gonna say government agencies is gonna be hard for them to do it.
Right.
Just because, you know what I'm saying, security factors for sure.
Yeah.
Like that whole cloud notion is probably just dead.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying, they definitely should, I want to say, try to consider it just because of the benefits that it has. Like Ayo was saying, instead of buying all these servers and having all this money that you just waste on things that may not even be used on-prem, like, you know what I'm saying, you could just have that stuff in the cloud and just whenever you're using it, just boom, pay for it at that point.
Right.
But, you know, they don't have that ability to do that. So I don't know if it's going to be possible for everyone to go to the clouds, like government agency wise. But as far as like a regular person, like, you know, most of the stuff that you're already using is probably already in the cloud. Like well, I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of the stuff that people use already is in the cloud. So, you know, it's going to be, I'm not going to say hard, but, you know, it's definitely already out there. Like people are using the cloud consistently and they don't even know it yet. Like I know my parents are like, "Oh, get me away from the cloud. I don't want to do that. That's in the cloud. I don't know where my information is going."
Man, old people.
It's like I don't know where my information is going. I'm like, but it's already out there. Like it doesn't matter.
Don't be scared because you
exactly.
already out there.
That's the thing. Like, you know, change is hard for everybody, but you know,
Yeah.
change is gonna have to happen. Change is gonna come, man. Just have to adapt to it and get used to it at some point because, you know, that's going to be the future because having all these server farms where it's like thousands of servers going on, that's not going to be possible or maintainable moving forward. Like we're going to have to start thinking about energy consumption and like all those other different variables, things like that, that you're going to have to think about. So the cloud would definitely be better.
Yep.
I agree, man. And it's crazy because you had touched on a couple of things, both of you, security and things like that, you know. And for me, I think about it from a certain perspectives and stuff, you know, like more of a data perspective, you know, and you know, me being into data and how it flows and the whole data management process, you know, whether you're on-prem in the cloud, whatever it is, I think about having control over it. And a lot of customers I've dealt with, they're like, you know, I need control of my data. And so when you decide to give it to the cloud, you're kind of releasing certain controls. I feel like, you know, like security wise, you're allowing them to secure as much as possible, you know, whereas you're just kind of releasing it. I mean, probably security analysts, whatever it is, they probably are scared about losing their jobs or whatever it is that's more the on-prem people, you know, but from my perspective, I just think like, dang, you know, a lot of customers really do care about the fact that I'm giving you ownership now of being able to make sure my data is safe, you know, and that's a big hurdle to kind of overcome. But I do see the benefits, right? I see like buy as you go, right? You know, kind of pay as you go kind of thing. And that's dope because now I don't have to, and you think about it, Google Drive, right? And Google Photos and stuff, right? You got that's in the cloud and it's so dope that you know I can delete and remove. So I haven't even used up my 15 gigs free yet, right? And I've had it for years and years and stuff. But if I do decide to use it and I do decide to get to 16 gigs of data, I don't have to like go there and say, hey, look, you got to stand up this whole new storage, right? You got to stand up this whole new server and all that stuff just so that I can get one more gig of data. I just say, you know, it just automatically grabs it from the cloud, right? Stuff, you know. And so that's dope, you know. And then also the ability to kind of access my data from anywhere. Man, I'm sharing links to people, make it public, private. I can now go over to I can access it from the cloud. I can have it on my desktop as a client, you know, on my desktop, you know, now I can have Google Drive over there so I can grab my photos there. If my laptop dies, if the server dies in a data center, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. All right, cool. I'm going up to the cloud because I can pull it, you know, down from the cloud from anywhere I want. And that's so important, man, you know. And so, I mean, data is just growing crazy. I don't know how, I believe it should be a hybrid for sure, because there's security reasons and things like that, especially when you get in the government and banks and financial industries and things like that. But I do think that the growth of data is going to outgrow the how fast you can kind of put hardware on the ground, right? You know, it's gonna be crazy, right?
There's just so much data, bro. Like, what you think you were saying, like petabytes, yottabytes,
yottabytes.
Yeah, like all those different, like, it's just the crazy amount of data that is just going on right now.
Out of control.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and they even say, man, I saw this thing the other day. It was saying that there are 1.8 billion digital images like every single day that's produced out there, right? You know, and they're talking about like cameras that are taking photos of cars, you know, whatever it is, you taking photos or whatever, and it's going to the cloud, whatever it is. I mean, that's only just images, man. We got streaming there, you got videos, you got all kinds of other stuff, and that's like not even capturing everything that's in there and stuff. So, you know, at first, I think before this podcast, my statement was, it got to be hybrid. It's always gonna be hybrid. But the more I think about it now, I might be changing my mind. The more we talk about it, I'm like, dang, you know, they got to figure out a way to make it only cloud, you know, and adapt to all these applications that try to say they're on-prem, but they really need to go to the cloud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the flexibility to be flexible is so huge as well too, because at that point, like, that's when, you know, we start talking about the whole container thing, right? You can containerize your applications, right? And you can take it and run it anywhere you go, right? Because you can't just have the application run on some server, you know, and you can't take that nowhere. You know, it's stuck there for as long as, you know, the app runs. You know, containers give you that flexibility to be able to run anywhere you take it, right? Just take that image with you anywhere, you know, and that's why it's so important. And I really, really think that at some point when companies start seeing the light, they're gonna start like, okay, let's try to do this. Like you don't have to do everything at once, but gradually migrate things little by little till you're like full blown.
They have to be willing to make that change though. Like people are so stuck. I won't say stuck, but they have a certain process that is like, all right, this works. This has worked in the past. It's gonna work forever.
You know,
and they're not willing to change. But you have to be willing to accept this change. That, you know,
that's true. That's very true.
Those things very true.
Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion, with your host, Dapper Data.